Kylian Mbappe is not just a footballer. He is a corporation. He is a global brand. He is a family business disguised as a sports career. Today, we uncover how a boy from the Paris suburbs became one of the world's richest athletes and why his family holds the real keys to his billion-dollar empire. This is not just a story about football. This is a story about money, power, family, and the business of building a legend. Kylian Mbappé was born on December 20th, 1998, in the 19th arrondissement of Paris. But his story does not begin in France. His story begins in Africa. His father, Wilfried Mbappé, was born in Douala, Cameroon. Wilfried was a professional football striker. He played in the lower divisions of French football. But he was more than a player. He was a student of the game. He understood football tactics, psychology, and strategy. When Kylian was born, Wilfried did not just want a son, he wanted a protege. He wanted a project. He saw in Kylian something special, something that could be trained, molded, and perfected. Wilfried became Kylian's first coach, his first mentor, and his first tactical teacher. He taught Kylian that football is not just a game, it is a science, it is a system, it is a way out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary. Kylian's mother, Faiza Lamari, was born in Algeria. She was a former handball player with a fierce competitive spirit. But her true talent was not in sports. It was in negotiation. It was in strategy. It was in business. She had a sharp mind for numbers, contracts, and opportunities. While Wilfried focused on building the footballer, Faiza focused on building the brand. She would later become the CEO of the Mbappé empire. She would become the architect of his contracts, the protector of his wealth, and the mastermind behind his global image. Together, Wilfried and Faiza created a perfect partnership. One built the athlete, the other built the empire, and Kylian was their masterpiece. The Mbappé family lived in Bondy, a suburb northeast of Paris. Bondy is not a wealthy area. It is known for its tough streets, its diverse communities, and its hard-working families. But Bondy also has a strong football culture. The streets are filled with kids dreaming of becoming the next Zinedine Zidane or Thierry Henry. The Mbappé family was middle class. They were not poor, but they were not rich. Football was the family religion. The living room was their classroom. Every weekend, Wilfried would sit with Kylian and watch football matches on television. He would pause the game at key moments. He would ask young Kylian questions. What did you see? Where should the pass go? Why did the defender move there? Kylian was not just watching entertainment, he was studying a profession. He was decoding a complex system. He was learning to see the game not as a fan, but as a strategist. At the age of 4, Kylian joined AS Bondy, the local football club where his father was a youth coach. The other kids were bigger, stronger, and louder, but Kylian was different. He was quiet, observant, and intensely focused. His eyes followed the ball with a concentration that was unusual for a child. He didn't just run aimlessly, he calculated his movements. He didn't just kick the ball hard, he placed it with precision. Wilfried trained him differently from the other children. He focused on developing speed, not just physical speed, but mental speed, decision-making speed. The first touch had to be perfect. The second touch had to be a pass or a shot. There was no time for a third touch. This was the Bondy blueprint. This was the foundation of Mbappé's playing style: fast, efficient, and lethal. By age 6, Kylian was already playing with 9-year-olds. By age 11, he received an invitation to Clairefontaine, France's national football academy. Clairefontaine is famous. It is the factory that produced legends like Thierry Henry, Nicolas Anelka, and Olivier Giroud. The evaluation report from Clairefontaine was clear. It noted Kylian's exceptional speed, his extraordinary football intelligence, and his technical skill. But it also noted that he was emotionally reserved. He played with the maturity of an adult, yet he often stayed silent. He observed more than he spoke. He learned by watching, analyzing, and imitating. This quiet intensity would become a signature trait throughout his career. At 14, Kylian made a life-changing move. He joined the youth academy of AS Monaco. This meant leaving Paris, leaving his friends, and moving to the south of France. His mother, Faiza, made a huge sacrifice. She quit her job and moved to Monaco with Kylian. She became his full-time manager, protector, and guide. Meanwhile, Kylian's father, Wilfred, stayed in Bondy with Kylian's younger brother, Ethan. The family was split geographically, but united in purpose. This sacrifice became the emotional fuel for Kylian's ambition. He understood that he was not playing for himself alone. He was playing for his family. Every goal, every sprint, every victory was for them. In Monaco, Kylian's talent exploded onto the professional stage, but equally important, his education in the business of football began. Monaco is not just a football club, it is located in one of the wealthiest places on earth. It is a principality of billionaires, luxury yachts, and grand casinos. Kylian saw extreme wealth up close. He saw luxury cars, designer fashion, and extravagant lifestyles. He began to understand that football was not just a sport, it was a gateway. It was a passport to a world of financial power and global influence. Faiza Lamari negotiated Kylian's first professional contract with Monaco. She did not just ask for a good salary, she negotiated performance bonuses, image rights, and a clear development plan. She was not just building a career, she was building a business empire. On December 2, 2015, at the age of 16 years and 356 days, Kylian Mbappé made his professional debut for AS Monaco. He broke a historic record. He became the youngest first-team player in Monaco's history. The previous record holder was Thierry Henry. This was not a coincidence. It was a symbolic passing of the torch. The heir to French football's throne had arrived. The 2016-2017 season was Kylian's true coming of age. He scored 26 goals in all competitions. He helped Monaco win the French Ligue 1 title, breaking Paris Saint-Germain's dominance. He was instrumental in taking Monaco to the UEFA Champions League semifinals. The world was now watching. But behind the scenes, the most important negotiations were happening off the field. Faiza Mbappé was in discussions with Europe's biggest clubs, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Manchester City. She was not just selling a talented player, she was selling a phenomenon, a brand, a global icon in the making. In August 2017, the move happened. Kylian Mbappé joined Paris Saint-Germain on a loan deal that later became a permanent transfer for €180 million. He became the second most expensive player in football history, behind only his future teammate Neymar. But the transfer fee is only a headline. The real story is in the contract details. Faiza Mbappé negotiated a revolutionary deal. It gave Kylian unprecedented control over his image rights, a major say in his commercial partnerships, and involvement in his long-term development plan. This was not a standard player-club agreement, it was a corporate partnership. PSG was not just employing a footballer, they were entering a joint venture with Mbappé Inc.
Kylian Mbappe's wealth is not earned, it is engineered. Every euro is a calculated output of a vast, family-run corporate machine designed to transform athletic genius into generational capital. This is not a story of a footballer who got rich. It is the blueprint of a 25-year-old who built a financial fortress. We will dissect this fortress brick by brick, the record-shattering salary, the curated endorsements, the strategic investments, and the unprecedented control that makes him a $200 million phenomenon. The first pillar is his contract with Paris Saint-Germain, a document that redefined football economics. Signed in May 2022, after a cinematic standoff with Real Madrid, it is a 3-year masterclass in leverage. The headline figure is a gross annual salary of 72 million euros. To fathom this scale, break it down. 6 million euros every month, 1.5 million euros every week, over $214,000 for every single day of the year, whether he plays or not. But the base salary is merely the entrance fee. The deal included a $150 million signing bonus distributed across the contract's term, a golden anchor to secure his loyalty. Furthermore, intricate loyalty bonuses and performance add-ons can inflate the total by tens of millions more. The most revolutionary clause, however, ties a significant portion of his earnings directly to his image rights and commercial value. PSG isn't just paying a player, they are investing in the Mbappé brand and share directly in its growth, a partnership model almost unheard of in the sport. However, the true engine of his empire operates far from the Parc des Princes. Mbappé's endorsement portfolio is a lesson in elitist branding. He refuses to be a walking billboard, instead partnering with only a handful of global titans, each chosen for prestige, alignment, and long-term equity. His foundational partnership is with Nike. What began as a teenage sponsorship was renegotiated in 2023 into what industry insiders call a lifetime contract, valued at an estimated $18 to $20 million per year. Beyond the annual retainer, its real worth is immortality, the Kylian Mbappé signature line of mercurial boots and apparel. This places him in Nike's most sacred pantheon alongside Cristiano Ronaldo and Michael Jordan, guaranteeing perpetual royalties and ensuring his name endures in sportswear culture for decades post-retirement. His digital dominion is ruled from the cover of EA Sports FC, formerly FIFA. As the global face of the franchise since succeeding Lionel Messi in 2018, this deal contributes $5 to $6 million annually. Its genius is in soft power. It injects his digital avatar into the daily routines of tens of millions of gamers worldwide, a form of cultural conditioning no traditional advertisement could ever achieve. His wrist is adorned by Hublot, where he serves as a global ambassador, frequently sporting limited edition timepieces worth over $500,000, a symbol of luxury and precision. Oakley protects his eyes, and he holds a strategic stake in Sorare, the NFT-based fantasy football platform, aligning himself with the frontier of digital sports ownership. Each partnership is a deliberate tile in a mosaic designed to project KM as the archetype of modern, tech-savvy, high-performance luxury. The Mbappé family's acumen truly crystallizes in their philosophy of investment over expenditure. They are not consumers of wealth, but architects of equity. In 2022, Mbappé launched Inspired by KM, his private investment firm targeting technology, media, and the future of sport. This is not a celebrity vanity project. His flagship investment is in PlayerMaker, a sports tech company specializing in wearable devices that track on-field performance metrics. He entered as both a capital investor and a strategic advisor, lending his athletes' perspective to product development. His portfolio also includes the French fantasy sports app Horse and equity in NFT Genius, a marketplace for premium digital collectibles. This is a structured, forward-looking portfolio built to appreciate, creating a financial engine that will run independently of his physical abilities on the pitch. The crown jewel and ultimate source of his leverage is his image rights structure. In a move that defies football industry norms, Mbappé retains 100% ownership of his name and likeness. This is managed through a Luxembourg-based holding company, a structure optimized for fiscal efficiency. When PSG, Nike, or any partner uses his image in marketing, they pay a licensing fee directly to his corporate entity. This generates a staggering additional $20 to $25 million in pure passive revenue, meticulously overseen by his mother, Faiza. This absolute control is his ultimate power in negotiations. He is not a commodity to be sold, but a licensor of his own brand. This financial architecture funds a lifestyle that is itself a calculated brand asset. His real estate is understated yet strategic, a $7 million apartment in Paris, and most tellingly, a multi-million euro villa purchased at the height of transfer rumors, a tangible piece of strategic chess. His car collection, featuring a Ferrari 488 Pista and an Audi RS6 Avant, reflects a preference for engineering excellence over flashy ostentation. Each asset, when glimpsed by the public, reinforces the narrative of a disciplined, success-driven modern icon. The entire operation is a tightly held, family-run corporation. Faiza Lamari is the CEO and chief negotiator, a figure both respected and feared in boardrooms. Father Wilfred oversees the footballing legacy and long-term career trajectory. Even his younger brother Ethan's path through the PSG Academy is woven into the broader family narrative. This insular control prevents media leaks, consolidates decision-making power, and ensures every move, from rejecting a $10 million sponsorship that doesn't fit the brand to accepting a specific contract clause, serves the singular mission of transitioning Kylian from a footballer into a self-sustaining, timeless global institution. The output of this machine is monumental. Forbes estimated his total 2023 earnings at $120 million, with his net worth accelerating towards $200 million. He is on a credible trajectory to challenge for the status of football's first billionaire athlete. Yet this empire exists under constant tension. France's prohibitive tax rates claim a monumental share. The psychological burden of being a $200 million human asset is immense. The looming transition to Real Madrid will require the careful dismantling and reassembly of this entire financial and branding apparatus under a new flag, his greatest test yet. This is the empire, but an empire is inhabited by a person. The weight of carrying this financial and familial legacy from adolescence is a silent, immense burden. The intense privacy, the meticulously managed public persona, the fact that every holiday, friendship, and romantic link is scrutinized for brand impact, this is the human reality inside the $200 million fortress. The money is a score, but the game is one of perpetual, exhausting calculation. In Part 3, we will step behind the battlements of this fortress. We will explore the private life, the guarded relationships, the rumored romances, and the small circle of trust that surrounds the most valuable young man in sports. We will seek to answer the question his fortune cannot. What is the true cost of living as a human corporation?
Kylian Mbappé lives in a gilded cage of his own making. The $200 million empire, the brand partnerships, the record-breaking contracts. They form an impenetrable fortress that shields him from the world, but also isolates him within it. This part ventures behind the battlements, into the private reality of the most valuable young man in sports. We explore the family that is both his foundation and his board of directors, the romantic rumors that flicker at the edges of his spotlight, and the profound psychological cost of a life lived as a human corporation since adolescence. This is the story of what the money protects and what it steals. The innermost circle of the Mbappé fortress is and always has been his family. They are not just relatives, they are his management, his counsel, his protectors, and his prison guards. This dynamic is the source of both his unprecedented stability and his intense personal constraints. His mother, Faiza Lamari, is the undisputed CEO, a former handball player with the grit of a street fighter and the mind of a Fortune 500 strategist. She is the architect of everything. She negotiates every contract, approves every commercial deal, and controls access to her son with fierce protectiveness. Insiders describe her as charming in social settings, but terrifying in a negotiation room. She famously rejected a $10 million endorsement deal from a fast food chain early in Kylian's career, deeming it off-brand. Her rule is absolute because her motive is unquestioned. She is building a legacy for her children, not just a career for her son. His father, Wilfried Mbappe, is the footballing conscience. While Feza handles the business, Wilfried oversees the craft. He is the first coach, the eternal tactician, and the emotional anchor. He is often seen in the stands, not celebrating wildly, but analyzing with a focused gaze. Their relationship is one of deep respect and unspoken pressure. Wilfried transferred his own unfulfilled footballing dreams onto Kylian, and while it produced a champion, it also created a dynamic where love is inextricably linked to performance. The younger brother, Ethan Mbappe, represents the future of the family enterprise. A talented midfielder in the PSG academy, his progression is carefully managed. His path offers a glimpse into the long-term plan. The Mbappe name must endure in football beyond Kylian's reign, transforming from a single superstar into a dynasty. This tight, insular unit leaves little room for external influences. Friendships are scarce and intensely scrutinized. His inner circle consists largely of childhood friends from Bondi and a few trusted teammates. There are no hangers-on, no flashy entourages. This isolation is a strategic choice to prevent leaks, manipulation, and distractions, but it breeds a profound loneliness. He is the king, but the throne room is often empty save for his family council. Every person in his life has a function, blurring the line between genuine relationship and professional necessity. This scrutiny reaches its most intense pitch in his romantic life, a subject of global fascination and tabloid speculation. His most confirmed and significant relationship was with Inès Rao, a French model and actress. Their connection in the late 2010s was discreet, but open enough to be acknowledged. Rao, older and established in her own career, represented perhaps a fleeting window of normalcy, a relationship not orchestrated by the family brand managers. However, it faded under the relentless pressure of his schedule and the microscope of fame. Since then, he has been relentlessly linked to a series of high-profile women, from Belgian model Rose Bertram to fellow footballer Melanie Martens. Each rumor is instantly dissected by fans and media, but the Mbappe camp maintains a wall of silence. No confirmation, no denial. This policy turns his love life into a shadow game, where every dinner photo becomes a headline and every Instagram like sparks 1,000 theories. The most persistent and impactful rumor has been a link to transgender model and activist Inès Rao. While never officially confirmed by Mbappe, the association alone sparked a global conversation, revealing the double-edged sword of his fame. On one side, it showcased a potential for him to be a progressive figure beyond sport. On the other, it exposed him to a vile wave of online bigotry and intrusive scrutiny that few 22-year-olds could mentally withstand. The family's response was telling: complete lockdown, no statement, no engagement. It demonstrated their core strategy. His private life is not a playground for public discourse, it is a sealed chamber. The message is clear: you will consume the footballer, the brand icon, but you will not have the man. The psychological architecture built to withstand this life is both formidable and fragile. Sources close to the player describe a young man of two minds: Kylian, the quiet, humble, PlayStation-loving son from Bondi, and KM, the global icon, the corporate entity, the face of a billion-dollar brand. The transition between these two selves is a daily performance. In documentaries, we see glimpses of the former: a boyish smile after scoring, a relaxed demeanor with childhood friends. In press conferences and brand events, we see the latter: polished, measured, speaking in flawless corporate platitudes about projects and objectives. The mental toll of this constant code switching is immense. There is no off switch when your face is on a global video game cover and your every vacation is paparazzi fodder. The weight manifests in subtle ways.
Teammates have occasionally referenced his intense, almost monastic focus. He rarely parties, his social media is a carefully curated portfolio of professional achievements and brand partnerships, and his hobbies, like chess, are solitary and strategic. This isn't just discipline, it's the necessary armor for survival. A single misstep, one controversial photo, or ill-advised comment could cost millions in brand equity. The freedom of a typical 25-year-old is a luxury he cannot afford. His rebellions are small, private, and expensive, like his collection of rare, customized sneakers, a hobby that allows for personal expression within the controlled universe of fashion and collectibles. This life of immense privilege and immense pressure raises the fundamental question: what has been sacrificed? The answer is a normal youth. While his peers were navigating university, first loves, and existential crises in relative anonymity, Mbappe was negotiating a $180 million transfer and learning to parse legalese. His adolescence was a professional ascension. His young adulthood is a masterclass in crisis management and brand maintenance. The trade-off is clear: global immortality for personal anonymity, limitless wealth for limited freedom. The fortress, therefore, is not just for protection from the outside world, it is also to contain the contradictions within. It houses the boy who dreams and the brand that must not falter. It shields the family that created the phenomenon from the phenomenon itself. As we look ahead to his seismic move to Real Madrid, this private world faces its greatest stress test: a new country, a new cultural context, and even greater exposure will challenge the family's insular control. Can the fortress walls hold in the blinding light of the Bernabeu?
Kylian Mbappe's move to Real Madrid is not a simple transfer. It is the corporate merger of the century in global sports. When the French superstar finally pulls on the legendary white jersey, he will not merely be changing clubs, he will be relocating an entire commercial empire, a $200 million personal brand, into a new financial, cultural, and political universe. This section deconstructs the Madrid deal not through a football lens, but as the most intricate business operation of his life. We will examine the new fiscal architecture, the monumental brand implications of joining the White Galaxy, and the ultimate challenge of becoming the king of the Bernabeu while his family council orchestrates the transition from a new European nerve center. The foundation of this merger is a complete financial re-engineering, leaving the high-tax jurisdiction of France for Spain's more favorable regime is, in itself, a masterstroke of wealth strategy. At Paris Saint-Germain, his gross annual salary reached an astronomical 72 million euros, but France's punitive income tax, which can exceed 50% for top earners, drastically reduced his net take-home pay. Spain's Beckham Law, designed to attract elite foreign talent, allows qualifying individuals to pay a flat tax rate of approximately 24% on their Spanish-sourced income for their first 6 years of residence. This creates a seismic shift in his net earnings. While reports from outlets like Marca and The Athletic indicate his Real Madrid base salary will be around 30 to 35 million net per year, this figure is potentially comparable or even superior to his post-tax income at PSG due to the favorable tax treatment. The true financial jackpot, however, lies in the signing bonus. As a free agent of his historic caliber, Mbappe commands a golden handshake of epic proportions. Reliable industry estimates point to a signing-on fee in the range of 100 to 150 million euros to be paid in installments over the length of his contract. This is not wages, it is a direct capital injection, a corporate welcome gift for the institution's new flagship asset, designed to secure his long-term commitment from day one.
Yet, the transcendent value of the Madrid move exists far beyond the payslip. It represents the final elevation of the Mbappé brand into a rarefied stratosphere inhabited by icons like Alfredo Di Stefano, Ronaldo Nazario, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Real Madrid is not just a football club, it is a relentless content factory, a global media empire, and a universal symbol of aristocratic sporting success. For Mbappé, this is the definitive transition from global superstar to immortal legend. The club's estimated 800 million global fan base and its peerless marketing apparatus will catapult his visibility into markets where PSG's presence is nascent, particularly across Latin America, Asia, and North America. This triggers a Galactico multiplier effect on his commercial worth. While his flagship partnerships with Nike, Hublot, and EA Sports are already worldwide, becoming the face of Real Madrid will activate lucrative renegotiation clauses and performance bonuses within those contracts. Entirely new commercial categories will unlock: partnerships with luxury Spanish real estate developers, collaborations with high-end Iberian fashion houses like Loewe or Balenciaga, and access to the upper echelons of the European entertainment and investment circles. His family's investment vehicle, inspired by KM, will inevitably establish a Madrid satellite office, pivoting its focus to tap into Spain's vibrant technology and startup ecosystem, particularly in Barcelona and Madrid. This corporate merger, however, comes loaded with brutally high performance expectations and contractual triggers. The Madrid deal is rumored to be saturated with incentive clauses tied to the Ballon d'Or, UEFA Champions League victories, and specific goal-scoring milestones. These are not merely sporting targets, they are directly linked to tiered brand compensation and equity escalators. At PSG, he was the crown prince of a state-funded project. At Real Madrid, he is stepping into a lineage of monarchs. The pressure is not merely to win, but to win with the flair, dominance, and consistency that defines the club's Showtime heritage. Every missed opportunity, every premature Champions League exit will be framed not just as a sporting setback, but as a depreciation of the brand equity Real Madrid has just acquired. The scrutiny from the Madrid-centric Spanish press, renowned for its fickleness and ferocity, will be an order of magnitude more intense and unforgiving than the French media landscape. His family's long-standing strategy of media silence and controlled access will face its most severe stress test. The move also necessitates a complex, delicate relocation of the entire family-operated enterprise. Faiza Lamari must now assert her negotiating dominance in a new boardroom, facing the legendary Florentino Perez, an architect of the Galactico era and a formidable dealmaker in his own right. Wilfried Mbappe's role will evolve to interface with a new footballing hierarchy, from manager Carlo Ancelotti or his successors to the club's sporting directors. Their insular Paris-based command center must decentralize and adapt to a dual-axis operation between France and Spain. This logistical and psychological shift presents a significant operational risk to their famously tight control. Furthermore, the future of his younger brother, Ethan Mbappé, becomes a strategic puzzle. Does he remain embedded in the PSG academy to continue his development, or does the family orchestrate a parallel move to a Madrid youth setup, aiming to keep the Mbappé dynasty under one symbolic footballing roof? Culturally, Mbappé must execute a nuanced high-wire act. He must display genuine deference to Madrid's living legends and its passionately demanding fan base, while simultaneously asserting his own status as the new on-field alpha and commercial engine. He will need to embrace learning Spanish, understanding the capital's culture, and passing the intangible but critical patrimonio test, proving he comprehends the sacred, historic weight of the white shirt. His first press conference, his debut El Clásico, his inaugural goal at the Santiago Bernabéu, each will be a meticulously staged and globally dissected brand event.
His life off the pitch in Madrid will exist under an even more powerful microscope. His choice of neighborhood in the Spanish capital, his dining habits, his social affiliations, and his romantic life will all be subject to relentless public dissection. The protective fortress his family built in Paris must be reconstructed brick by brick in a new city that offers even less privacy. The long-term corporate strategy behind this merger is unequivocal. Leverage the Real Madrid platform to achieve three paramount objectives. First, secure multiple UEFA Champions League titles, the most conspicuous void in his otherwise glittering PSG resume, which serves as the final credential for undisputed football immortality. Second, win the Ballon d'Or as a Madridista, an honor that carries a unique legacy-defining prestige when attained with this particular club. Third, use this elevated status as a launchpad for his post-playing career empire, positioning himself as a global investor, sports franchise owner, or cross-continental influential figure. Madrid is the ultimate springboard to transition from Kylian Mbappé the player to Mbappé the timeless, self-sustaining global institution. Yet, the risks embedded in this merger are existential. If the integration fails, if he struggles to adapt tactically, clashes with the club's deep-rooted culture, or fails to deliver the expected European glory, the brand damage could be severe and long-lasting. The narrative would swiftly pivot from here to Cristiano Ronaldo to history's most expensive misfit. The family's meticulously accumulated equity could stagnate or even depreciate. The move to Real Madrid, therefore, represents the ultimate high-stakes, all-or-nothing wager. It is the calculated leap from being the most luminous star in a domestic league to battling for the title of the defining footballer of his generation on the world's most illuminated and demanding stage.
Kylian Mbappe's playing career, however long and glorious, has an expiration date. The true masterstroke of the Mbappé family project lies in what happens after the final whistle. This is not a plan for retirement, it is a blueprint for perpetual relevance and expanding wealth. While other athletes face the daunting cliff edge of life after sport, Mbappé is constructing a bridge to a future where footballer is merely the first chapter. Part 5 maps out the ambitious, multi-pronged strategy to transition Kylian Mbappé from the world's most expensive player into one of its most powerful sports magnates, with a legitimate shot at becoming football's first billionaire. We will analyze his ventures in club ownership, media, technology, and brand legacy, revealing how the boy from Bondi intends to build a kingdom that outlasts his own speed. The most logical and impactful pillar of his post-career empire is football club ownership. The model here is clear. Follow the path of Michael Jordan, Charlotte Hornets, David Beckham, Inter Miami CF, and more recently, Lionel Messi's strategic stake in Inter Miami. For Mbappé, ownership is not just an investment, it is legacy preservation and industry control. The likely target is not a European giant, he would lack the capital to acquire a controlling stake in such an entity, but a strategic acquisition in a growth market. Speculation points towards an MLS franchise in the United States. The American League's closed-system franchise model economics, combined with its explosive growth trajectory and 2026 World Cup catalyst, make it an ideal playground for a global icon. Imagine KM9 owning a team in a city like Las Vegas, Atlanta, or even a revived franchise in San Diego. His ownership would instantly confer global credibility, attract other star players, and create a commercial behemoth. Furthermore, he could leverage his deep understanding of French and African football talent to create a unique player development pipeline, feeding his MLS club with young prospects. This venture would be executed through his Inspired by KM fund, likely in partnership with American private equity, blending his brand appeal with their financial muscle. Parallel to ownership is the construction of a media and content empire. Mbappé is not just a subject of documentaries, he will become a producer of them. The goal is to control the narrative of his own career and shape the stories of others. This begins with a dedicated production company, likely launched before he retires. Its first project would be a high-end, multi-part documentary series on his final playing years and transition, sold to a streaming giant like Netflix or Amazon Prime for a nine-figure sum. Beyond autobiographical content, the company would develop sports documentaries, docu-series on rising talents, and even scripted content centered on football culture. He would become the go-to curator for football storytelling, using his credibility to access locker rooms and private moments that others cannot. This media arm also encompasses podcasting, where he could host a show interviewing legends and disruptors, and digital content creation through his already massive social media channels, which would evolve into a full-fledged media network. The endgame is to become the Disney of football for a new generation, a trusted source of entertainment, inspiration, and analysis. His Inspired by KM investment firm will evolve from a side project into his primary economic engine. The focus will shift from early-stage tech bets, like PlayerMaker, to larger, more controlling stakes in the business of sport. Key sectors include sports technology and data, investing or acquiring companies specializing in performance analytics, injury prevention tech, and virtual training platforms. His first-hand experience gives him a unique edge in identifying valuable innovations. Fan engagement and Web3, deepening his involvement in the digital fan experience through fantasy sports, fan tokens, and immersive technologies like VR stadium experiences. His early stake in Sorar is just the entry point. Consumer brands, moving beyond endorsement to ownership. He could launch or co-own a sportswear line that directly competes in the performance gear space, or a lifestyle brand that extends his personal aesthetic of modern, understated luxury. Esports, acquiring or launching a top-tier esports franchise, particularly in the EA Sports FC ecosystem, creating a direct digital extension of his on-pitch brand. This investment philosophy mirrors that of legends like Magic Johnson or LeBron James, using the capital and credibility from sports to build a diversified, interlocking portfolio where each investment supports the others. The Mbappe brand itself will be institutionalized. This means moving the KM logo from the back of jerseys to a corporate seal. He will establish brand houses in Paris, Madrid, and potentially New York or Dubai, overseeing licensing deals for everything from high-end fragrances and timepieces, a natural extension of his Hublot partnership, to a chain of premium football academies across Europe and Africa. These KM academies would be the gold standard for youth development, combining his family's football pedagogy with cutting-edge technology, creating both a social legacy and a lucrative franchise model. The brand would also venture into philanthropy in a structured, corporate way, establishing a foundation focused on education and sports access in the Parisian banlieues and across Africa, ensuring his name is associated with generational impact, not just generational wealth. The financial trajectory to billionaire status is a steep climb, but not an impossible one. His current net worth is approximately $200 million. A 5 to 6 year contract at Real Madrid, with its net salary, bonuses, and commercial multipliers, could add $200 to $300 million in earnings and asset appreciation. Prudent, high-yield investments through Inspired by KM could double or triple that capital over a 10 to 15-year horizon. A successful MLS franchise purchase could be worth $500 million to $1 billion within a decade of acquisition. Add to this the value of his media company, brand houses, and other equity stakes, and the $1 billion mark becomes a realistic target within 15 years of his retirement. The key is the synergistic model. His media company promotes his club feeds talent to his academies reinforce his brand's legacy, and his brand sells his consumer products. It's a closed-loop economy with Kylian Mbappé at its center. However, this grand blueprint faces formidable obstacles. The first is execution risk. Being a genius on the pitch doesn't guarantee genius in the boardroom. He will need to assemble and trust a world-class team of CEOs, financiers, and operators, a challenge for a family accustomed to total control. Market volatility in tech and sports investments could wipe out hundreds of millions of dollars. Brand dilution is a constant threat. Overextension into too many ventures could cheapen his elite image. Finally, there's the human factor. Does he have the relentless entrepreneurial drive to build a second empire after already conquering the first? The hunger that fueled him from Bondi must be redirected, which is not a given.
Kylian Mbappe's narrative is no longer confined to the parameters of sport. It has evolved into the definitive blueprint for the 21st century global icon, a seamless fusion of athletic brilliance, corporate mastery, and profound cultural symbolism. As we conclude this exhaustive exploration, we must look past the financial statements and tactical diagrams to examine the permanent imprint he is etching onto the world's consciousness. This final installment examines Mbappé not merely as an athlete or entrepreneur, but as a multifaceted cultural force, a living symbol of a reinvented France, a vital connective bridge between continents, and a pioneering model for athlete-driven legacy building. We will define what the moniker Mbappé is destined to signify long after the stadium lights have dimmed and the cheers have faded into history. The cultural symbol, embodying a new France. France is a nation perpetually grappling with questions of identity, integration, and social cohesion. In this complex landscape, Kylian Mbappé has emerged as a potent, unifying emblem. Born to a Cameroonian father, Wilfred, and an Algerian mother, Faiza, and raised in the culturally rich Parisian suburb of Bondy, he personifies the dynamic, multi-ethnic reality of contemporary France. His astronomical success provides a powerful, visible counter-narrative to the systemic marginalization and negative stereotypes often associated with the banlieue. When he stands on the podium lifting the FIFA World Cup for France, he is performing an act far greater than sporting victory. He is making a profound sociological statement. He represents a France that is confidently diverse, relentlessly ambitious, and capable of triumphing on the most global of stages. Yet, his relationship with the French establishment remains intriguingly nuanced. While celebrated as a national treasure, his pointed criticisms of the French Football Federation and his fiercely guarded private life demonstrate a clear refusal to be co-opted as a political symbol or a passive patriot. He shoulders the collective hopes of a nation while simultaneously and meticulously managing his own brand of patriotism, one rooted in performance and principle rather than pageantry. His legacy in this realm is therefore dualistic. He will be remembered as perhaps France's greatest ever sporting export, and equally as the symbolic standard-bearer for a generation that insists on defining its identity and allegiance on its own uncompromising terms. The global humanitarian and architect of opportunity. The ultimate measure of a legacy often lies in its tangible impact beyond the glare of fame and fortune. The Mbappé family has consciously laid the foundational stones for a philanthropic enterprise that promises to become his most enduring and meaningful work. In a defining act at just 21 years old, he donated his entire 2018 World Cup bonus, an estimated 400,000 euros, to the charity Première de Cordée, which provides sports programs for hospitalized and disabled children. This was not an isolated public relations gesture, but a deliberate signal of intent. His foundation, though still in its developmental phase, is strategically poised for exponential scaling upon his retirement from play. Its focus is both predictable in its empathy and profound in its potential: youth empowerment through integrated access to sports and education in underserved communities across France and the African continent.
We can expect him to fund and personally champion the construction of state-of-the-art sports academies and community complexes in symbolic locations like Bondi and Douala. These KM academies will be designed to prioritize not just footballing technique, but holistic development, instilling life skills, providing mentorship networks, and facilitating academic scholarships. This is the critical transition phase, from being a source of inspiration to building the permanent infrastructure that manufactures inspiration for others. In the mold of philanthropic athletes like Magic Johnson or Roger Federer, this humanitarian work will evolve into a core, inseparable pillar of his public identity, ensuring the name Mbappe becomes eternally synonymous with hope, access, and tangible opportunity. The Continental Bridge, uniting Europe and Africa. Kylian Mbappé stands as perhaps the most significant and potent bridge between the European football establishment and its spiritual, talent-rich homeland, Africa. He is a national hero in both Cameroon and Algeria, but his influence extends far deeper. He is a global symbol of the African diaspora's excellence and potential. He has consistently and proudly acknowledged this heritage, weaving it into his public persona. This unique positioning grants him unparalleled credibility and opens doors in both European corporate boardrooms and on African football pitches. Looking ahead, we can foresee him playing a transformative role in the development of African football, moving beyond charitable donations to strategic, legacy-defining investment. Could he lead a high-profile consortium to invest in modernizing league infrastructures, youth academies, and broadcast capabilities across the continent? Might he become the face and driving force behind a unified African bid for the World Cup, using his stature to lend it immediate global credibility? His vision, capital, and influence possess the unique power to help reshape not just sporting pathways, but also economic narratives for an entire continent, thereby transforming his personal legacy into a truly Pan-African one. The ultimate competitor, the pursuit of historical immortality. On the pitch, his sporting legacy will be quantitatively defined by numbers and qualitatively sealed by iconic moments. The path ahead is clear and historically steep. To surpass the UEFA Champions League and Ballon d'Or tallies of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, and to equal or even surpass Pelé's hallowed record of 3 World Cup victories. The epic 2022 World Cup final, where he scored a mesmerizing hat-trick in a losing cause, was not an end but a dramatic prologue to this generational quest. Leading France to World Cup glory in 2026 or 2030 would not merely add to his trophy cabinet, it would etch his name into the absolute pinnacle of football's history, potentially settling the greatest of all time debate for his era. This relentless sporting pursuit is the primal engine that powers the entire Mbappé enterprise. Every commercial partnership, every investment decision is fundamentally fueled by the capital and global platform generated from this obsessive quest for footballing immortality. His eternal standing as a player irrevocably depends on it. Yet, a crucial dimension of his legacy will be the private, human cost of this monumental public project. Kylian Mbappé, the person, has lived a life meticulously curated since early adolescence. The quiet, observant boy from Bondi traded the anonymous freedoms of youth for the golden cage of global superstardom. The price is a conventional life, spontaneous friendships, uncalculated romantic relationships, and the liberty to fail in private. His most personal legacy in his quietest reflections may forever revolve around the existential question of whether the throne was worth the profound isolation required to build and maintain it. This intrinsic human tension, the eternal push and pull between the global icon KM and the individual Kylian, remains the most universally relatable and poignant layer of the entire story. It serves as a modern, sobering counterpoint within the fairy tale, a silent reminder that the price of achieving godlike status in the public eye is often a significant portion of one's own unscripted humanity. Conclusion: the self-architect of immortality. Kylian Mbappé is engaged in an unprecedented endeavor, the real-time, conscious construction of his own everlasting legacy. He is not leaving its definition to future historians, nostalgic fans, or external biographers. Through unprecedented corporate control of his image, direct ownership of his narrative, a sprawling and strategic investment portfolio, and deliberate philanthropic architecture, he is actively writing his own historical chapter. The final product will not be a simple entry reading Kylian Mbappé, retired footballer. It will be the House of Mbappé, a permanent, self-sustaining global institution spanning the domains of sport, commerce, media production, and social impact. His journey from the asphalt pitches of Bondi to the summit of world sport, and now to the frontier of global influence, stands as the ultimate 21st century success chronicle. It is a tale woven from threads of familial unity, preternatural talent, cold-eyed calculation, and an insatiable will to conquer, both on the rectangular pitch and on the expansive chessboard of